Hello everyone, welcome back to my next video. I wish you a happy and joyful day with your family. If you find it interesting, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel. Now let's start the story. The desolate eastern coast of Kauai, where the relentless fury of the Pacific hammers against the island's jagged cliffs day and night, holds a secret whispered only in fearful silence among the locals. Haʻeleʻele, the place of darkness, a stretch of black sand beach all but erased from maps, swallowed by time and dread. The stories woven around it speak of something older than the island itself, something that slumbers beneath the waves, waiting. The most infamous legend is that of Moʻo, the ancient guardian turned vengeful spirit, a creature of scales and shadow that once watched over the sacred springs of Kauai, worshipped by the first people who walked its shores. But when the first missionaries came, when the old ways were abandoned and the shrines left to crumble, Moʻo's protection twisted into something darker, a curse, a hunger. The fishermen who still brave these waters speak in hushed tones of the drowned who never surface, of voices that rise from the deep on moonless nights, calling out names in a language long forgotten. Kaya had heard the stories. Of course, every child on Kauai grew up with warnings about Haʻeleʻele. But where others saw fear, she saw mystery. A marine biology graduate student with a thirst for discovery, she dismissed the tales as superstition, the remnants of an old religion clinging to life in the modern world. The black sand, the odd currents, the way fish seemed to avoid the area, there had to be a scientific explanation. And so, on the evening of the summer solstice, when the tides were lowest and the ocean eerily calm, she set out alone, her backpack stuffed with diving gear, a high-powered underwater light, and a GoPro strapped to her wrist, determined to document the truth. The water was colder than she expected, the moment she waded in sending a shiver up her spine that had nothing to do with temperature. The first few meters were beautiful, shafts of dying sunlight cutting through the clear water, illuminating schools of silvery fish that darted away as she approached. But as she descended, the light faded too quickly, the blue darkening into an inky green, then black. Her flashlight beam cut through the gloom, revealing a graveyard of dead coral, their skeletal fingers reaching upward as if frozen in a final plea for help. The sand beneath her fins was unnaturally fine, shifting in slow, deliberate waves, as if something vast moved just beneath the surface. Then she saw the fissure, a jagged wound in the ocean floor, wide enough to swallow a car, its edges lined with strange, spiraling carvings that looked too precise to be natural. Her pulse hammered in her ears as she hovered at the entrance, the rational part of her mind screaming to turn back. But curiosity, that old and fatal lure, pulled her forward. The passage narrowed, the walls pressing in, covered in more of those eerie symbols, twisting, serpentine shapes that seemed to writhe in the flickering light. The water grew thicker, resistant, as if she were swimming through all. Then, without warning, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern, its ceiling lost in darkness. The beam of her light caught something that made her blood freeze. A face. No, not a face, a carving, but so lifelike its hollow eyes seemed to follow her. Then another, and another, dozens of them, lining the walls, their mouths open in silent screams. A sound vibrated through the water, a low, grinding hum that resonated in her bones. The sand at the bottom of the cavern stirred, then erupted in a cloud as something massive uncoiled from the depths. Her light caught the glint of scales, each one the size of a dinner plate, black as obsidian and slick with algae. Then the eyes opened to pale, pupilless moons that fixed on her with a gaze that felt like a physical weight. Moʻo. The creature moved with impossible speed for its size, its body longer than a whale, thicker than a tree, twisting through the water with a grace that defied its monstrous form. Kaya's instincts finally overrode her shock, and she kicked backward, but the water had turned viscous, clinging to her limbs like tar. From the shadows, shapes emerged, humanoid, but wrong, their limbs too long, their faces blurred as if half melted. They reached for her, their fingers brushing her ankles, her arms, their touch like ice. The whispers started then, not in her ears but in her mind, a cacophony of voices pleading, begging, cursing in a language she somehow understood. She thrashed, her oxygen gauge blinking red, her lungs burning. The cavern's entrance seemed miles away, the light from the surface a distant memory. Moʻo's ma yawned before her, rows of needle-like teeth glistening, and in that moment, Kaya understood the truth of the legends. This was no mere creature. This was something older, something that had been waiting long before humans ever set foot on these islands. Her last thought, as the darkness closed in, was that she should have listened. They found her camera 3 days later, washed up on a beach 30 miles south. The footage, what little was salvageable, showed only static, then a single, blurry frame, a pair of white eyes in the dark, and a hand, unmistakably human, pressed against the lens as if begging for help. The local news called it a tragic accident, a diver caught in a riptide. But the old men who still fished those waters knew better. They burned incense that night, chanting the old prayers, their voices trembling. And if you walk Haʻeleʻele beach at dusk, when the wind carries the scent of salt and something darker, you might hear it too, a whisper, just beneath the waves, calling, waiting. The story ends here, and I will see you again in the next stories. Now, goodbye and see you again.